What's the word, people? Welcome back to another episode from What's the Word Entertainment. I am, of course, your host, Sherm. Ron couldn't be here again this week as he had a prior engagement, so you just got me for this time. But there's a few topics I wanted to discuss and really was, itching to talk about, so I figured I'd just go ahead and do this episode myself. So on this week's show, we're going to discuss the recent Week 7 college football results, the upcoming NBA season, as well as some action from Week 6 of the NFL. But first, I did wanted to talk about some MLB action. Obviously, we're halfway through October, so of course that means Major League Baseball playoffs. We both have the League Championship Series underway. Of course, in the ALCS, we have Houston versus Boston. Now, Game 2 was last night in Boston, and the Red Sox came out on top 7-5 over the Astros, tying up that series 1-1. David Price went 4 2/3 innings with 4 earned runs, giving up on 5 hits and 4 Ks. While on the other side for the Astros, Garrett Cole went 6 strong with 4 earned on 6 hits and 5 Ks. Obviously, you have the Astros, who are the defending champions. We have the reigning AL MVP in Jose Altuve, and their ace, as well as former MVP and Cy Young Award winner Justin Verlander. Houston obviously they're the reigning champs for a reason. They're a great team, in the AL. They've got a lot of hits. They seem a lot of bats on that lineup there. Their pitching is strong, but I do think they have met their match with the Boston Red Sox. The Red Sox are obviously the best team in baseball all year long, with 108 wins on the year, which is phenomenal. You have their ace Chris Sale, and as well as David Price, who I mentioned earlier, and possibly the AL MVP and JD Martinez, but who did go 0-4 last night, and I believe went 0-3 in Game 1, so he definitely needs to step up. But I do think Boston will take this series just because, they've got some more veterans on that team. They've got the experience. They've been here before. So I do think the Red Sox will come out on top for this series. On the other side of the pond, we've got the NLCS with the LA Dodgers and the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, of course, the Dodgers have reached the NLCS for the third straight year. And they were able to pick up Game 2, actually, over the Brewers 4-3. Now the series is tied as well at 1-1, which has actually snapped the Brewers' 13-game win streak. Justin Turner actually had the go-ahead 2-run homer in the 8th. The Brewers, were up 3-0 going into the 7th, and Yelich and Braun are actually combining for 1-for-8 in that game. And Yelich is actually probably going to be the NL MVP this 2018 season. And Braun is a former MVP himself, but the Dodgers, they've got a hell of a lineup. Obviously, their ace is Clayton Kershaw. They got Yasiel Puig in there. Manny Machado, who was obviously a big pickup for them before the trade deadline this year, coming over from Baltimore, so he's helping them out a lot. As I mentioned, Turner before to his clutch. But, even though the Brewers have, their MVP candidate and Yelich, I think the Dodgers will come out with this series win again and go back to the World Series, who, they faced the Astros last year. It came up short, of course. But I think this is the Dodgers' time around, to really get there again. I'm not saying they're going to beat the Red Sox, but I do think it will be LA Dodgers, Boston Red Sox World Series. I think the Dodgers, I'm not counting them out just yet, but they do have a very good shot. I'm gonna say it's about 55 to 45%. The Red Sox taking it, but that could swing either way, maybe due to some injuries and things like that. But for right now, we've definitely got some good matchups here in the ALCS as well as the NLCS. So next up, I want to go into Week 7 of the college football. This 2018 season has been a great year so far. There were quite a few upsets this past weekend in Week 7. Of course, the biggest one I would say is number 2 Georgia losing their game against number 13 LSU 36-16. They were able to, LSU was able to get to Jake Fromm, rattle them around. Some folks are calling for a change at quarterback for the Bulldogs. I don't think they're there just yet. I think everyone needs to pump the brakes just a little bit here. Jake Fromm is a great quarterback. Led the Bulldogs to the national championship game last year as a freshman. So I don't think that they need to take that change, make that change just yet, and then just give them some time. They'll be okay there. LSU, coming off that loss to Florida, people kind of counted LSU out. Their run might have been over, but folks, beware. LSU, is legit here now. Don't sleep on LSU now. So I will say that was a very good game. The other one I want to look at as well is Washington lost to number 17 Oregon. Obviously, the Huskies were ranked 7th in the country. This was a big game for them. The Pac-12 I would say, is exploded now because of this matchup. They lost that game 30-27 in overtime, I believe. Oregon, I don't think they've arrived just, even though this is a big win for them, I don't think they've arrived just yet. this is kind of good turnaround season for them. They haven't really been great since Chip Kelly has been gone. I think I gotta admit, but Washington, man, this was their chance to really put their stamp on their season. To me, take control of that Pac-12. But obviously, we got a few more weeks to go. About 6 weeks to go in the season. So a lot of things can happen. The other matchup, obviously, I want to look at is number 6 West Virginia losing big to Iowa State, 30-14. A lot of folks had West Virginia going pretty far. Some people say that they were overrated. Didn't really play anybody, but Iowa State, they were a heck of a team at home. I believe almost beat Oklahoma. They've got to just turn it around. Some people said they had a potential Heisman candidate in Will Grier at quarterback going into the season. But this was definitely a big loss for them. Another one, the man, Miami, number 16 in the country, losing to Virginia in Virginia, 16-13, a close one there. That was definitely a shocker, I must say. Miami, really had high hopes coming into the season, obviously coming off of last year, doing so well, having the impact and the camaraderie of that team, have the turnover chain was in full effect and everything. But, Miami's really got to turn it around quick if they want to come out on tops in the ACC. But even a bigger upset, which I was certainly heartbroken on, of course, was Michigan State being the number 8 Penn State Nittany Lions in Happy Valley, 21-17. What is it about Penn State that they just can't seem to hold on to fourth quarter leads? I mean, the same thing would happen with Ohio State 2 weeks ago. Had the lead in the fourth, gave it up. Same thing here. They don't have Saquon Barkley, as we've mentioned in earlier episodes. Obviously, Miles Sanders, he had a heck of a game. He had, I believe, 168 yards rushing in this one here. I just don't know. I mean, the receivers have to step up. The receiving core is not what it was before. Juwan Johnson needs to do more. He's very inconsistent. They don't have Gesicki at tight end anymore. He's in the NFL with the Dolphins. McSorley, he had a good game. He played well. Some of it I think has to do with the play calling there. I'm not sure if Penn State can really turn it around. Next week I believe they have Indiana followed by Iowa. So some games that they should win here. Now their chances at a Big Ten title probably seem lost at this point unless they're going to need some help. Ohio State's going to have to lose at some point. They've also Penn State also has to play Michigan later this year. Also have to play Wisconsin later this year. So their schedule doesn't get much easier too. So, but that's my piece on the college football Week 7 results. So, coming up next, I wanted to get into some NBA action. Obviously, the season starts off tomorrow, so I wanted to discuss a few things there. So, stay tuned. I'll be right back with some more. Thanks. All right. So now, before we get into Week 6 of the NFL, I want to discuss the NBA. The 2018-2019 is getting ready to tip off this week. So, of course, one of the biggest stories, actually the biggest story in the NBA this offseason was, of course, LeBron James taking his talents to Hollywood and joining the LA Lakers, leaving Cleveland after, 4 consecutive trips to the finals, 8 consecutive if you count going back to his days in Miami. Obviously, this is a big change going him from the Eastern Conference going to the Western Conference, which is loaded, of course, as we all know, which is obviously the power conference in the NBA. But now he joins the Lakers with Lonzo Ball. He's got Ingram. They got some, good talent, young talent there. Who they had some good acquisitions on the offseason. Rajon Rondo coming over as well from the New Orleans. You have JaVale McGee coming over from the Warriors, and also them signing Lance Stevenson, who was a pest to LeBron back in his Miami days when Lance was with the Pacers. Now, do I think the Lakers are going to go to the finals this year? No, absolutely not. Obviously, they have to go through the Warriors, of course. But they will make the playoffs. I see them being maybe a 5 seed, probably even a 6 seed, actually, to tell you the truth. But, it's LeBron. You can never count them out. But let's just face it, they don't have the firepower as Golden State has, as Houston has for that matter. But this is obviously a big deal. LeBron in LA, to me, this was not a basketball decision. This is more of a lifestyle choice more than a basketball decision. He has a home in LA he recently bought. He wants to do things. He's thinking about life after basketball. That's why I think he really made this move. Now, granted, he wasn't going to win in Cleveland. We all know that, unless he got more help ever since, Kyrie being gone really hurt the team. They barely won with Kyrie the year before. So, I just don't see LeBron, doing anything really I mean, he may very well win MVP. Technically, he could win MVP every single year. Let's face it, he's the best player on the planet. But the Lakers need more firepower. They're going to have some cap space next season to come out with another big name free agent on a max deal. So we'll see what what happens there. But I do think, like I said, they'll be in the 5-6 range. If something goes bad, they get some injuries, it could be down to 7. But I do think they'll make the playoffs for sure. But it's definitely a big moment to watch this year. The other big news in the offseason for the NBA was Kawhi Leonard being traded to the Toronto Raptors for DeMar DeRozan. As we all know, Kawhi, he was tired of San Antonio. He wanted out there. And on the other side, DeMar DeRozan felt like he was going to stay in Toronto. He thought he was going to be a Raptor forever, which is crazy. And I don't know why San Antonio wouldn't try to work with Kawhi. Kawhi is arguably the best two-way player in the game. I mean, other than LeBron, outside LeBron, but even though Kawhi's defense is a little better, but Kawhi, I mean, he's a franchise guy. He's a little quiet. Some people don't really know his name, but still, that's a guy you don't really want to give up for. Give up. So I mean, Toronto, they're definitely, I think, have improved. They even picked up Danny Green in that trade as well too. It's great for Toronto, but is he going to want to stay? Kawhi has made it known that he wants to go to LA. Will it be the Lakers? Will it be the Clippers? Who knows? But Kawhi, I don't see Kawhi staying in Toronto because, they can, possibly contend in the East, but they're not going to win a championship there. So Kawhi wants to go where he can win, definitely for sure. So we'll see how that plays out. But I do think the Raptors, they'll, obviously be the top 2 or 3 teams in the East, of course. But are they going to really make any real noise? No, let's face it, it's Toronto. The other one, a big acquisition, was, of course, DeMarcus Cousins coming over from New Orleans and going to Golden State. That team is loaded. They've been loaded with Steph, KD, Clay, Draymond. Now you add a walking double-double in DeMarcus Cousins. You averages 25 and 11 or 12, I believe it is. I mean, obviously he's out with the Achilles. He's not ready yet. He may come back, I would say, probably December, maybe even January timeframe. Who knows how his rehab is going. They say he's doing well. He's been shooting recently. But DeMarcus, I mean, you put him in that lineup, they're unstoppable. Golden State's going to win no matter what. No one can stop them. Let's just face it. They're too loaded. Another move people are kind of quiet about, I still think it's relevant. It's Carmelo Anthony signing with the Houston Rockets. Obviously, he left Oklahoma City via trade, and he was waived by the Atlanta Hawks, and then he signed with Houston. This is something significant because he's reunited with his old coach, Mike D'Antoni, who coached him for a little bit on the New York Knicks. He's got Chris Paul he's familiar with. They're friends. They're good teammates. They have James Harden, of course, former MVP. Reigning MVP. Now, I mean, Paul, Harden, Melo, even though Melo plays no defense, yes, I get it. But, I mean, Houston, very well, if Chris Paul is still playing in that series last year, Houston could have possibly taken out Golden State. So you don't know what's going to happen there. But I do think Houston is a legitimate contender for the West. They'll obviously be the 2 seed behind Golden State, so that's going to be a heck of a series once we get to the Western Conference Finals later in 2019. But I mean, Carmelo, I do think that team will push him to be his best. His situation in Oklahoma City wasn't the best, of course, as we all saw. But I do think Houston will be a legitimate contender. Now, the season starts off Tuesday night with Philly at Boston. Boston is by far, I think, going to win the Eastern Conference Finals. It's funny because after LeBron James signed with the Lakers, I believe there was a tweet by comedian Chris Rock who said, "Congratulations on the Boston Celtics, the 2018-2019 Eastern Conference champions." So folks are already crowning them the Eastern champs. I know Kyrie's back. Gordon Hayward's back. They've got a lot of young talent in Jason Tatum, Marcus Smart, Terry Rozier. That team is destined to do great things. A lot of young guys. That team is going to be a heck of a force to be reckoned with in the Eastern Conference. And they'll go against, obviously the Warriors when they come out. I think that series can easily go 6 or 7 games right there. But obviously I still would pick the Warriors just because of their experience. But Boston is loaded. And of course Philly has turned around that team as well due to the process. Trust the process. I mean, hey, it works. Markelle Fultz is playing better this preseason. Obviously, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, who's an all-star. That's going to be a great game. I'm going to take Boston because it's at Boston. I'll take Boston in this game, so I think that's going to be a good one. The other one on Tuesday night and opening night is Oklahoma City at Golden State. Wow, that's a heck of a game there. Obviously, you got KD going against his former team in the Thunder. I'm going to, of course, pick Golden State. How can you not? Oklahoma City was able to re-sign Paul George in the offseason, who and all pointed to him leaving, going to LA. He made, I guess, he felt things were unfinished in Oklahoma City, that they can do great things. Now, him and Russell Westbrook together is a force to be reckoned with. I just don't think they have enough. They're going to need another perennial all-star on that team, of course, just to compete with Golden State, of course, to compete with Houston. Oklahoma, they could be a 4 seed this year, maybe even a 3. I just don't think they have enough. But Golden State will definitely win this game. So now I really want to just get into the Week 6 results of the NFL. I had some great games yesterday. Of course, the one I wanted to highlight, of course, is Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. The Steelers were able to come out with the victory on this one. A close game here. Some people more closer than some people thought it would be. The Steelers edged it out 28-21. Now, of course, Antonio Brown had the game-winning touchdown on what was a very controversial play. It seemed like the receiver set a pick play for Antonio Brown, which freed him up. Ben Roethlisberger hit him on that quick slant. Drake Kirkpatrick was out of position due to the pick play. The league came out today and said that the defensive player engaged the offensive players, therefore it was not a pick play. I don't know. It was so close. You can surely make the argument that the offensive player initiated the contact. I wouldn't have been surprised if the refs threw the flag. The refs are missing calls every game, all year long, every year, of course, so we can't really hold that against them. But, good win for the Steelers. They were able to pick up the victory in Cincinnati, so hats off to them. Another game which was pretty significant was Seattle over Oakland. That game took place at Wembley Stadium over in London. Oakland, they can't get it together, man. I think a lot of folks are going to be questioning John Gruden's tactics. First, you trade away your best player in Khalil Mack. You say you can't rush the passer. Well, there you go. That's why. Derek Carr has been inconsistent this year. Seattle, that would have with a dominant performance winning that game 27-3. Seattle looks like they're kind of turning things around even without Earl Thomas in that secondary for them. Oakland, they've got it together. They've got to get it together quick, or things are going to spiral really, really fast for them. Another game which was a thriller, which I was not expecting, was Miami and Chicago. Miami came out with their overtime victory with a game-winning field goal, 38-21. Brock Osweiler, got the unexpected start, doing the Ryan Tannehill not being able to go in that game. Chicago coming off a bye, but the week before, Mitchell Trubisky lit it up against Tampa Bay with 6 touchdown passes. So all signs to point to them, taking this game easily, especially with Brock Osweiler at the helm. Chicago has a stout defense there. One of the tops in the league this year. Obviously Mack is there. Of course, they got him from the Raiders, as I just mentioned. So this was quite a surprise. And this game was actually pretty close. Came down to the wire. Kenyon Drake actually fumbled going into the end zone on the 1-yard line, and Chicago was marching back down the field. So some folks were pretty surprised, including myself, that Miami was able to get this one out. Another game we wanted to talk about was obviously the LA Rams and the Denver Broncos. LA going into Mile High Stadium, where it was actually snowing earlier in the day in Mile High yesterday. Temperatures were, I believe, down in their mid-20s, which is crazy. The Rams coming from over to LA, they're not used to that weather. But LA was able to get the win 23-20, with another close one there. Todd Gurley had a career high 208 yards rushing. The Rams are 6-0. I think they're the best team in football. A lot of people I'd say they're the best team in football. They've got some injuries on the defensive side, so that's why I think Denver was able to keep this game so close. Aqib Talib is still out. Marcus Peters is still out. They're 2 big off-season acquisitions, but if they get them back, that offense is rolling. Jared Goff is having a heck of a year. The receivers are playing well. Brandon Cooks and so forth. LA, I think, is definitely the team to beat in the NFC. Another game which was a very big shocker. The Cowboys over the Jacksonville Jaguars 40-17. I didn't think Dallas had this kind of offense. Jacksonville, what's up with them? They're supposed to be one of the best defensive teams in the league. Last year I know they were, but this year, what happened? Jalen Ramsey coming out this offseason talking a whole lot of trash to people, everybody saying he's the best corner, saying this quarterback is trash, this quarterback is a gimmick player, he can't do this, he can't do that, and they're just getting smoked. They can't rush the passer for some reason. I don't know what's up with that team. They've got Calais Campbell. They've got, as I mentioned, got Ramsey. I just don't know what's going on with them. Obviously, Blake Bortles on the other side, on the offensive side for them, we are who we thought he was. He's inconsistent. He's erratic. He can't get it together all the time. Do they need to make a change? A lot of people are saying yes. To me, honestly, this past off season, I thought the Jaguars should have went after Eli Manning. Eli could have reunited with Tom Coughlin, who's in their front office. I thought that would have been a great fit for Eli. Leave the Giants, let that team behind. Leave that team behind. Granted, he's been there for so long, his entire career, got 2 Super Bowls, but go to Jacksonville with that great defense. He's an elite veteran quarterback who can take them probably deep into the playoffs. I don't see Jacksonville going back to the AFC Championship game again this year, just the way they've been playing with Blake Bortles' inconsistency, but. Again, who knows? But heck, hats off to the Cowboys coming out with a great showing there. And the last game I want to discuss is New England over Kansas City. Obviously, Tom Brady is Tom Brady, doing it at 40 years old. What can we say about them? Passing game, but coming out that win in Foxborough, 43-40 over the then undefeated Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes still doing Patrick Mahomes things as we've seen all season long. He had a heck of a game as well. But, the Patriots are the Patriots, of course. And they've done it time and time again. Now they're 4-2. The handed the Chiefs their first loss of the season. Is this a matchup we're going to see later in the year and possibly in the AFC Championship game? Probably. But New England, Gronk had a pretty mediocre game until that last quarter. Made a big play on that last drive for them. They came out with the field goal at the end, got by Gostkowski, but. Even though this is Chiefs, maybe I don't think it's too demoralizing for them. There was a close game. They played well, just got beat by, a better team that day. But I do still think the Chiefs are going to do great things this year. I predict them maybe going 12-4 on the season. Mahomes is definitely looking like their franchise quarterback, so they definitely did the right thing with him for sure. Andy Reid is molding him to be a great QB in this league. So all signs point to the upside for the Kansas City Chiefs. Well, folks, that's it for this week's episode of What's the Word Entertainment. Again, I am Sherm. Hopefully next week, Ron will be back and joining me on my side to discuss all the news and action from around the NFL, the NBA, college football, baseball, anything we want to discuss. So hopefully he'll be back here once again. Thanks again, guys, for joining in. Be sure to subscribe to our page and look out for more things to come from What's the Word Entertainment. Thanks, guys. Peace.